Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast. For the first half of today's podcast, the second half, we are going to have a guest who will join us later and will replace Giles Edwards, who we're going to talk to first. Pete Turbovich will remain with us for both halves, but our guest in the second half is going to be Anders Runestad, who has written the book on Robot Monster. So we're going to talk for 40 minutes with Anders about Robot Monster. And when I say he's written the book, I really mean it. He has written the book just on Robot Monster.
Wow. That looks like textbook.
Yeah.
So
I'm just checking an index real quick. Don't mind me. All right.
So
first movie on the list.
We have Giles here temporarily because Giles is actually in Montreal right now at the Fantasia Film Festival with a unstable 3G video connection. And so we hope he will be good to stay here. But Giles, to start out, why don't you tell us what you've seen at Fantasia Festival in this first, it's already a first week that
all right.
you would be interested in?
Well, I've seen 17 things so far, and you've posted my reviews of a number of them, and just this morning submitted my write-up for the smaller works. Really kicked off. Vincent Must Die, I'll say, really started it for me. But before that, I did see Blackout from Mr. Fessenden, which is a very solid, well-done contemporary werewolf horror thing. I caught, after Vincent Must Die, the day after, I caught A Chinese Ghost Story for the first time in my life. And that was a delight to see a 35mm print. And that was a whole lot of fun. Had a great swordsman rap thing that I was definitely not expecting, but all things considered, in that movie, it made sense. I was able to get into Sympathy for the Devil, followed by Divinity, which made for a lovely double feature that Thursday or Friday evening. Sandland, a Japanese animation feature film based on another work by the guy who devised Dragon Ball Z. That has so far been the most fun, just unalloyed, good time, great cartoon action. Fantastic Golem Affairs was a cute, absurdist little Spanish language comedy. Let me see what else. Restore Point was an interesting Czech film, I guess effectively a police procedural set about 20 years from now, with all the future trappings you might want to hope for that without being too overblown. Lovely, Dark and Deep was kind of like an American Crocodile light kind of feel to it, with supernatural things going on in the woods. I had a wonderful Ormond family double feature late one night with If Footmen Tire You, What Will Horses Do, followed immediately by Burning Hell.
Boy.
It was quite an experience, especially introduced by the guy who's recently published a big book, and I've been asking around to see if we can get the recording of his Zoom introduction, because he got caught up at the border with passport problems and so was unable to present it live. So fingers crossed that I can get his lively and illuminating words about those two.
Maybe we should
things that go bump in the
yes.
What's that?
I said maybe we should get
it's
him.
not impossible. He seems very eager to pitch a book, and I know we'd be eager to help him do so. So I can also inquire about that. Things that go bump in the East happened last night, which was 8 wonderful short horror films from, I think, exclusively the Asian continent, which is big, and had things from Bangladesh. And Devils was a Korean action thriller twist thing, plus a few others.
You skipped one. So a couple of those I want to ask you about, but you did not mention Divinity.
Oh, I mentioned that very quickly. Yes, I saw Divinity. It was right after I saw Sympathy for the Devil. So in the
Oh,
big hall, I saw the Cage flick and then walked across the street to. No, I didn't have to. No, that was in the big hall too, and it was a pretty full house. So yeah, I had a long evening with two rather strange films.
well, there's a long write-up of
I,
Divinity.
Sympathy for the Devil is probably my pick of the litter, right? You'd say Nicolas Cage?
Yeah, I mean, if you like crazy Nicolas Cage, you're going
Of
to
course.
love Sympathy for the Devil. So,
Yeah.
that's my very short review, and you'll know who you are.
The other two I wanted to ask you about real quickly were old ones. Chinese Ghost Story, give a thumbs up. I've thought about covering that on the site. We could probably cover it, but do you think that it is after you having seen it more recently than I have, I've seen it twice. Do you think that it's a weird movie, Giles?
Oh, yes. There's a sort of cutesy action vibe. There's a cutesy romance vibe, but there's also the weird 80s fusion of, gosh, I described in my brief remarks that it's sort of shot like a softcore, in many ways like a softcore porno film. It isn't one, but it's got that kind of like gauzy, lens kind of thing going on, at least for the unlikely romance between the tax collector protagonist and the mysterious young woman he meets at the abandoned temple. And of course, there's the third character, and my favorite, and I imagine many people's favorite, the Taoist swordsman who has his own goals and ambitions flirting around the edges, and as I mentioned briefly, has his own song performed with aplomb.
And then the other one I wanted to ask you too about was the Ormond movies, because I know Alfred Aker was a huge fan of those movies, and I haven't seen them. Are they weird movies?
Certainly the one with the very labored metaphor, if footmen tire you, what will horses do, which doesn't make sense until you hear it explained by Estes Perkel himself, who has the most lines in that as a this is kind of like a sermon interrupted with images of the grim predictions of what this particular, I think it was a Tennessee Baptist preacher, was anticipating for the U.S. in 24 months' time. All these people machine gunned down in the streets, Christian children, Christian adults, people who want to live freely as Christians, and just all the awfulness that's going to happen to them once communism takes over. In this particular vision, apparently it was Cuban communists that were going to be the main force that were going to vanquish the U.S. in days, according to the prognostications in that film. So definitely the first one. And I mean,
we're waiting. We're still waiting, but there's some hope. Some hope.
Yeah.
Really, all the CIA does is have to send Fidel Castro another exploding cigar, and that would take care of him, right? That's why we did that.
We'll get Raul where we failed to get Fidel with that one.
Yeah. Oh well, now it's drag queens. It's always something.
Oh, those guys and girls.
Uh-oh.
Oh, hey, it's an image. But yes, so those were weird. Definitely the first one, probably the second one.
All right, well, so let's get into the movies we're going to talk about this week before our guest comes on. But Giles, you probably already discussed this. Do you have anything else to say about Sympathy for the Devil, that you haven't already said? This, by the way, is in theaters everywhere, starting by the time you see this, most likely.
Yep, that opens in theaters tomorrow. This screen capture with a smiling, happy-looking, red-haired Nic Cage across from a rather distressed-looking bland fellow takes place during what I guess I'll call the set piece among set pieces when they stop at a diner. Nic Cage's character, who remains unnamed, is hungry and wants to get some food. I heard tell that the actor affected this scene, sort of maneuvering it towards something he really wanted to do, which allowed for the It wasn't karaoke, but it was definitely a jukebox sing-along that was not originally planned, which Nic Cage opted for and allowed him to do his particular brand of offbeat magic for a few minutes to the tune of I Like the Nightlife, the disco hit from the early 70s, I believe. So this definitely has, whereas, say, Mandy had a controlled Nicolas Cage, the director kind of didn't bother for this one, which is just as well, because that red-haired gentleman there, Nicolas Cage, brings pretty much everything that you want to this movie, with the rest of it kind of just supporting this large presence of his.
Okay, well, we will definitely look forward to that.
One thing, is the entire story just these two guys mostly? I saw the trailer for this, and it's really just these two guys talking to each other.
It's 96 minutes long, and I'd say a good, I don't know, up to 2/3, 3/4 of it is just these two interacting. There is a waitress.
Fight Club vibes.
Yeah, and it takes place mostly in a 4-door sedan. So, road movie, Fight Club, ambiguity, Crazy Cage, gun violence, an awesome jacket. So yeah, it's an interesting combination of elements.
Okay, tell you what,
right.
Let's move on to this that we say about, and Giles probably doesn't even know what the heck he's looking at, because we didn't. Giles wasn't able to prepare for the rest of this slate, so this will all be new to him. This is sort of a answer to a mystery, a partial answer to a mystery we raised last week. That was a Harmony Korine rumored movie starring rapper Travis Scott, who I sadly don't know. Do either of you know Travis Scott, by the way?
Yeah, he's a Houston rapper out of Houston, Texas. He's definitely at the dance funk softer end, maybe mumble rap. It's melody rap, it's not hardcore. I'm so used to thinking in terms of East Coast and West Coast rappers that I completely overlooked Texas, of course. Anyway, but yeah, he also ran as his stage name is Cactus Jack, and now he's starting a cannabis startup called Cactus Farm. So that puts in a that puts a link to my Dab Connection gig and this. Plus, he's a musician, so he's open game on lyric interpretations gig too. He did the songs Butterfly Effect 2017, Goosebumps before that.
All right.
Sorry, that's what I got.
The cannabis connection may be what's connecting him to Harmony Korine, because I
right.
Based on some of the things in Korine's movies, I have a feeling that he's something of a cannabis fan himself.
That goes with the territory now. If you're a rapper and you don't have a cannabis brand, forget it. You're not going to make it. No, your records will never sell. Okay. Does he? Oh, he doesn't now. Gaspar Noé, the director of Irreversible and Enter the Void, isn't he attached to this project somewhere?
Yes. No. So this is the thing.
I can see that.
The rumor about a Travis Scott Harmony Korine action movie shot entirely in infrared is apparently true. But it's not this movie. This is another movie that Travis Scott has coming out, which is basically sounds like it's a bunch of music videos put together. It's going to play, I think, only in Los Angeles theaters. Those are the only ones I saw scheduled. But some of the directors include, as Pete hinted, Gaspar Noé, Harmony Korine, Nicholas Winding Refn, Valdemar Johansson, who did the movie Lamb, the Icelandic movie Lamb, and Khalil Joseph, along with Scott himself. So that is some top-notch talent attached.
That's amazing alchemy.
In this poster, another little bit of trivia. In this poster, you can see at the bottom right-hand corner, produced by A24. Now, that's not true. A24 had nothing to do with this. Variety asked them, and they disclaimed any knowledge of this project. So that's kind of strange, but there we are. So Travis Scott sounds like a real weirdo among rappers to me. So he fits right in, I guess, and he got some great talent. So
Texas rapper. What else do you need to say about a rapper from Texas? I didn't even know they had those.
isn't that where the SZA came from? SZA? Sorry. Lean. Forget it. So it's I thought Pete would know. It's a drug trend.
Yep.
Of Texas rappers.
Right. No, it's because most of them come East Coast or West Coast. Really, we're like that.
All right. Well, we're gonna keep tracking that one. That probably, I don't know if that will be maybe VOD. I don't know, but certainly the feature with Korine will be something we'll almost certainly cover. Giles will recognize at least the art style of this one. This is a guy is rushing out sort of a new movie. Alberto Vázquez just finished up Unicorn Wars, and he already has a new one apparently in the can and ready to go, called Decorado, and it's about mice. It's an existential movie about mice who come to believe that they are in a TV show, I believe is the synopsis. Pete, did you read about this?
Only probably what you have right in front of you. I do know, of course, Unicorn Wars by reputation. Giles, you saw it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I love it, of course, already. Just the premise, but really, when you take animations and then you make statements about politics and war, and it's hard not to think of things. Movies like Twilight of the Cockroaches. We had that in Capsule, and Nazca, the Valley of the Wind. Again, Miyazaki, we just talked about last week, did that a lot with animation. But anyway, Unicorn Wars, sort of like that, but I take it's got a little humor to it in a modern context. You've seen it?
I haven't seen Unicorn Wars. I saw Bird Boy. I thought it was interesting between Bird Boy and Unicorn Wars. He took like 10 years to make it, and now in like 6 months, he's already got a new movie out.
Okay.
So, Giles, do you have any? This is probably news to you, but I bet you liked Unicorn Wars, so you're probably excited about this one.
Yeah, I always like the opportunity to cover disturbing cartoons.
Okay. Well, you may get that opportunity. Let's move on, however. So, Giles, this may be new.
Oh, yeah.
Pete, did you get to watch the trailer for Once Upon a Time in Uganda?
Yeah, and I've kind of browsed around. For one thing, Who Killed Captain Alex is one of the Ugandan movies they're talking about, and it's out there on YouTube. I've seen. But Ugandans basically have a little cottage industry going on right now where they're making just short subject movies. Really the same thing that you're seeing American teenagers do on YouTube and Instagram, but they're goofing around with their friends in Uganda. So, and they're bringing their own unique cultural point of view. And apparently, there's a big fad for these guys. They have that distinctive humor that you sometimes come from the African continent with the gods must be crazy, I believe. Did that ever come from Africa? Do you guys remember this movie I'm talking about? This is way back in the
I know the title and the premise, but I don't know the specific country of origin.
Okay, all right. Anyway, it's nothing like that. But anyway, Uganda. That's about all I know.
Well, they are feature length movies, not shorts. He makes feature lengths, and I don't have the director's name in front of me, but he's done a ton of them. And
is this from the Bad Black Guy?
I'm sorry.
Oh, is this from the Bad Black Guy?
Yes.
I remember. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, they are features, but they're like hour-long features from most of them. So short features. But yeah.
Short films.
They have things like toy guns and very simple effects. But I think probably the most notable thing about them is that every movie has a live VJ.
Yeah.
Comments on the action as it occurs. It's almost like a mystery science theater type thing, except that it was made by the people who are making the movie. And for example, in one of the movies, the VJ says something like, "This is a love story, love of action," and he's got this wild delivery, and he just talks throughout the movie, and it's very crazy.
It's also like the Japanese silent film tradition where there was a raconteur who would guide the audience while simultaneously telling little bits that maybe the image and recording didn't quite capture for plot coherency purposes.
Benshi, I think. Benshi.
Yeah, so whatever the Ugandan word for benshi would be perfect.
So at any rate, Once Upon a Time in Uganda is a documentary about this Wakaliwood or Wakaliwood, I think it's Wakaliwood movement.
Wakaliwood, I'm getting it.
From the slums of whatever the large city in Uganda is. It's a documentary about this white dude who went over to be in these movies. And because he was such a fan of what he had seen, the guy we see on the cover there, and that's that. In conjunction with that, American Film Genre Archives, and I believe Arrow, are re-releasing Bad Black and They Killed Captain Alex in a double Blu-ray set with about 2 hours or so of special features. There's a lot of stuff on there. This still, I'm not sure which movie it's from, Bad Black or They Killed Captain Alex. Those are the two most famous ones, I think, and two of the first ones. And they are both on this DVD, which I don't have up. You guys, I know one of them is available on Tubi, and Pete says at least one's available on YouTube as well.
Well, what I was citing is when you linked us to that one YouTuber guy who reviewed the first volume of the set.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of those two is Who Killed Captain Alex. So I know that one is out on DVD. And I forget the other movie on that DVD.
Both of these, Bad Black and Captain Alex, are available separately. This special edition has some new content, new behind-the-scenes content, director's commentary, and I believe they have a bunch of fan videos that people sent in for people who are fans of the Wakaliwood movies. Any further thoughts on Wakaliwood, which is apparently I've only seen part of one. I thought the VJ talking over the action was by far the most entertaining part of it, because that guy was really spirited and had a lot of funny comments. I don't know if they were all intentionally funny. Some of them were, some of them may be just descriptive, but any further thoughts before we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a good thought. This probably nobody will recognize.
I do. It's Prague Nights.
What? Oh, yes, it is.
Yes.
Say it again. Say the name again.
Prague Nights, 1969, and it's an anthology series. This is recovered movie that they went and dug up again. It's 3 stories in a horror anthology. The first one is about a golem and goes very much into Kabbalah mysticism and stuff like that. Let's get the kind of magic that we would, I'm sure we brought it up a few times on Average Joe Travels the California Inscape on SoundCloud. But anyway, that one, and there's a couple other women revenge or revenge against a seductive temptress kind of stories. There's one gal poisoning people and robbing them. I don't know. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I did see enough of that. And this is recovered from, I believe, who was that? Vinegar Syndrome?
No, Vinegar Syndrome is releasing it as a partner with Deaf Crocodile, Deaf Crocodile is a very cool company that goes around and mainly Eastern European films, finds and restores Eastern European films and re-releases them, mostly in the art house vein. So this would be a Czech New Wave movie, 3 directors, 2 of whom I'm unfamiliar with and probably can't pronounce. Jiri Berdeka, Milos Makovic, perhaps, and Evald Shorm, who is the only one I've heard of. I've seen at least one of his movies. It's not the usual crew that you would expect. These are maybe a bit of second-tier directors from the Czech New Wave in here, except for Shorm, who I've definitely heard of. But they're supposed to be kind of surreal in their, at least in their production design. One of them, I think, has some music. And if you see the trailer on which I will link, there's quite a bit of eroticism in at least one of the stories. Bit of nudity with a woman in a bath and some lesbian stuff going on. So
check lesbian stuff genre. Yeah.
Lesbian stuff.
Yeah.
Anthology.
I also noticed more than a few frames of the trailer, at least one of the stories really is the way it's shot and filmed. It just reminds you so much of a noir. So it's got that kind of aesthetic going to it, and of course, being Prague in the late '60s, what a culture!
All right. So that's Prague Nights, and this one, Pete, I forgot to give to you.
I did see it. You said Graveyard Alive. It's got a capsule on our site. So somebody reviewed it already?
Many years ago, one of the first year of 366 Weird Movies existence, I reviewed Graveyard Alive, which was a tiny little micro-budget movie from Canada about a zombie nurse in love. And I recall I didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
Now I'm shocked that it is out on Blu-ray. So movie more than 10 years old. It was originally shot as a silent film, sort of in tribute to Guy Madden at the time. But the director didn't like the result. So then he overdubbed it and had actors speak dialogue over it. So of course the lips don't always match the voices, and that makes it a little extra weird, but it's kind of it's attempt to be a campy zombie movie. I didn't think it worked. I'm surprised it's on Blu-ray, but hey, they'll put almost anything on Blu-ray nowadays, which is good. More the better. They'll put anything out except for Angel's Egg, which nobody can ever see.
Any thoughts on the Technoscope that it was filmed in, Greg? Because I see that little marker right down there at the bottom. I've seen a lot of scope advertisements. Is this anything special?
I think it's just badly shot black and white.
Okay.
So we don't have much to say about that, but the movie probably has fans, and if I dump on it, I'm sure I'll get angry comments.
Yeah.
I sometimes get angry comments on stuff I like because I didn't like it enough, and people will get angry and call me an idiot. So
don't worry, it happens to everybody.
And that's it, except for one more. We're going to mention this Blu-ray 70th anniversary 3D restoration of the Great Robot Monster, which I will say our guest was not involved in this release. And so he has nothing to say about the release in particular. So we're going to just talk about it ourselves and then talk about the movie proper with him. But this is, restored 3D. If you watch the trailer, you can see the anaglyph stuff on there. There are about 2 hours of special features on it, which I don't have in front of me, but
it's got to be longer than the movie itself.
It is probably twice. Special features are probably twice as long as the movie itself. So we're going to talk about this more. Giles won't be here. Giles, do you have any comments about Robot Monster? Since you won't be here.
No, first it came to my awareness was whenever we discussed it very briefly, I don't know, a few weeks back, a month or so. So yeah, it falls squarely in that classically horrible genre that I tend to avoid, unless I am for some reason obliged to investigate, because there are enough movies out there that are well done for me to try to catch up on.
Yes, but what about the ones that are badly done but more entertaining than ones that...
Oh yeah, it's high hopes for those. There are very few so bad it's worth seeing movies. I'll recommend Frankenstein's Island being one of them. I remember wrote that review. But it has to, I guess I'm really choosy about my so bad it's good, because very many of them are just like, oh, well, that happened. And I'm happy enough there are fans of any particular example of that. But it's got to be special for me to sing a particular type of praise for it. And this might be. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
It is. It's very special. It's a very special movie. As you can tell from, it's about a alien who is also a robot, apparently, and a monster, and he's a gorilla with a diving helmet with antenna on it, and a bubble machine, which that's a frightening
monster, or is that just incidental bubbles? Like, does he make bubbles?
It's like they tried to make a science fiction device and all they had was a radio and a bubble machine.
And some stock footage from other movies.
Oh yeah, that too. Wasn't this filmed up in Griffith Park, LA?
Sure. Yeah, we can talk about that in just a few minutes for you guys.
Yes.
Anders. But yeah, so we're going to talk a lot more about Robot Monster, not about that particular release, but just about the movie in general. And that's it. I did want to say, I forgot, I was going to plug myself and say that, we had plans to release a book of 366 weird movies. And it was written several years ago, completed, and just now, I think we have good news to announce soon, and it will be out in 2024. I have something in front of me right now, and now I have a large job sort of finding graphics to fill the book to do.
Oh, yeah.
That is the last thing that has to be done, and then it will be ready to go. So,
all right. I promise to build up the HAMP campaign when the day comes.
Right. Yes. So
I think the trick will be to make this get into the academic circuit, so that it becomes a reference book at various colleges, because that's probably the best guarantor of sales.
Yeah.
It worked for the Golden Turkey Awards.
Yeah. Golden Turkey Awards, maybe we'll talk about in a few minutes with Anders, because he mentions those. So anyway, that's it for part one. We'll be back soon. Giles will be off. What are you going to see, Giles?
I'm off to see The Becomers, then Hippo, then maybe, and then certainly Where the Devil Roams by the Addams Family filmmakers, who are friends of mine, friendly with the site, and they have their latest feature, which is a Dust Bowl era set carnival crew horror thing. World premiere at the Big Theater for Fantasia. So that is going to be a lot of fun this evening.
Oh, you've been tweeting that a bit. Is that the one you've been tweeting?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I've seen that.
All right. Well, sounds good. Enjoy yourself, Giles, and
Thank you.
I will be back momentarily with Anders Runestad. All right. See you in a
Can't
bit.
wait to meet him.
Hello, we are back with our guest, Anders Runestad. Correct?
Correct.
Correct pronunciation. And I have briefly changed locations. I'm at the corner of Cannot and Must in Bronson Canyon.
What a ham.
The backgrounds are a little funky to get used to, so I'd like to have
Yeah.
both the monster.
This is real. I can throw things. I have a real background.
Well,
Practical effects, yeah.
Anders, of course, has written the book on Robot Monster. I doubt that there's anything near as complete. You can see how thick it is. It runs about 700 pages with footnotes and appendixes, and the script is in there, all sorts of things. Since I can't really show you a really good picture of that, I also have, there's the cover in a much wider picture for you guys to see. It has the full name, I Cannot Yet I Must, the true story of the best bad monster movie of all time, Robot Monster. And it has a anaglyph 3D kind of theme to the cover there.
Which I must admit, I found out later, Robot Monster was not anaglyph 3D, though it was 3D. So
it was not. Well, we've already had a first surprise.
That's what the 3D experts have told me, but I have to admit I probably didn't focus as much on 3D as I did a lot of the other things in the book. So yeah.
Okay, well, that is interesting. I'm not aware of all the different types of 3D, but I know it has been at least broadcast that way because they will give you the same glasses, the blue-red glasses. So
yeah, there was well, not to digress too much, there was this Rhino VHS version back like in the early 90s where they did some kind of 3D effect to it. And I remember I bought that and they sold it with the glasses, with the tape, and that might be the one they showed on TV. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was shown once on TV in 3D on MTV, I believe. So before to get started, let's just find out about you and why you were interested in Robot Monster and in writing the biggest possible book on Robot Monster that covers everything.
It is a good question. How this all started, where I went wrong. I was probably 8 or 9 or something. My sister checks out the book, the Golden Turkey Awards, from the local library. And I didn't really get all of it at the time. I think she read it more than I did, but I checked it out myself later, and I started to discover, all these sections about Ed Wood and Phil Tucker and Robot Monster and some of the more low budget movie stuff. And I just found it fascinating. And so I wanted to see all this stuff. And then as time went on, a lot of these movies stubbornly at the time just weren't showing up on TV, at least where I was. So developed a fascination. Me and some of my friends just loved the bad, low budget movies. And long story short, years later, I had the idea somebody should, research this topic. I didn't know if there really was anything to say about it. I had been searching around and found what looked like a way to contact Harry Medved, who co-wrote those books, and then, sent him a message. And I thought, well, 3 weeks from now, I'll get sorry, don't have anything. Bye. But no, about 20 minutes later, I heard back from him. He was super nice and enthusiastic. And, he told me that he actually had a whole pretty lengthy interview with Tucker, most of which was never quoted in those books that he did. So that started the process, slowly rolling. And, I'm basically a married working stiff with 4 kids. Matter of fact, I had 1 kid soon to arrive at that time. So I knew this was going to be a project that'd be kind of like evenings and weekends and lunch hours. It would take a long time, and it did. But that's just how it started. it largely started just because I like those weird kind of movies, and just nobody really wrote anything about Tucker. Everything was Ed Wood and, maybe some of the others, but just, Tucker just kind of was under the radar somehow.
And I think maybe part of that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're a Phil Tucker expert, but Phil Tucker wasn't, I don't think, an eccentric like Ed Wood was. He was more of a, working director, correct?
Yes, I think that's a good way of putting it. He kind of got that eccentric stereotype, but I remember just looking at his career, what he did, it just seemed like a guy who was more of a, like you said, practical, a working guy. He got into editing fairly soon. I mean, he was directing these low budget features, but he got into editing, and I know just enough about filmmaking to know, you could maybe wing it on writing a script or directing or something, but you cannot wing editing. I mean, that's very hands-on, very technical. You either can do it or you don't. And if it doesn't match up right, the movie's going to be hopeless. So suggested to me he was a very hands-on, tactile guy who, very much, looking for jobs. But what I was told later was, he just loved show business, wanted to get into it in some way or other. But yeah, he was not the eccentric, sort of the Ed Wood template of somebody who had this grand artistic vision and wanted to commit it to film. He took it seriously as far as it went, but I think the movies he made were largely a way to jumpstart his career, get himself involved in the business in some way.
Excellent. Who now, since this is movies from 1953, and so a lot of people involved with it were going to be have passed on before you got to it. Who were you able to actually talk to in researching this book?
A big part of original research, I don't want to say original because it was Harry's, but Harry let me use his entire interview. I think virtually the whole thing is quoted in the book. I did make the acquaintance of Phil Tucker's son, that was very, very interesting. He was, super supportive of the whole project, very nice. And we talked a lot about, what his dad was like and so on. But it was interesting because what I learned was Phil Tucker, the director, he didn't really talk about his early life too much. It remained mysterious. So, it was, but yeah, it was just kind of a piecemeal process. But yeah, there was his son. As far as people who were like directly in the cast, I did talk to Gregory Moffat, great guy. He did tell me he didn't remember an awful lot because when he was in that, he was a kid. And, it was just one of a number of jobs he had as a child actor, and he didn't remember a great deal about it. I ended up doing just a great deal of research, a number of angles. Some of it was secondary sources, from the trade papers and various books and so on. I was fortunate that Wyatt Ordung was interviewed before he had passed on, and he had a lot to say about it. I did talk to Conrad Brooks, for example, who was not in Robot Monster, but he knew Tucker and he kind of had some impressions. I talked briefly to Rudolph Gray, who had some Tucker anecdotes. I think he had a couple in his book, and he kind of clarified those, where those came from and so on, gave me some details. So it was kind of piecemeal, just talk to anybody I could find who knew a little bit here and there. But as far as the people involved in making Robot Monster, I think other than the two kids, I didn't get to meet Pamela Paulson. Claudia Barrett, I was not passed on until just recently, but she'd been interviewed a number of times, and I think probably everything she had to say was in those interviews. I had information for, I didn't actually meet Claudia Barrett, but anyway, I think the others had all passed on. So, and a lot of the crew were older. So, yeah, it was very, just piecing together information in every place I could find it, really.
Pete, you have some questions?
I'm pretty sure you're probably going to duplicate the same ones. Did you ever get out to Laurel Canyon? Not Laurel Canyon. What am I thinking of? The park, Griffith Park area. I mean, like I was born in Southern California, so all this stuff filmed around there.
Bronson Canyon.
I see you're also a music geek on your blog because I checked your site out. I checked your 5-part series a little on Hobbit Rock there.
Yeah.
And I'm a freelancer, so I work for a lot of different sites. Lyricinterpretations.com. I've been blogging about music there since 2013. And I even did a whole blog post just on Leonard Nimoy's Hobbit, Hobbit song. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah, the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins it is. That was actually filmed as a promo for a TV show filmed around the same time called Malibu U. And
Okay.
literally, if you draw a line between that and the Cave for Robot Monster, I was born somewhere in the middle there. But anyway, yeah. So that's a fun area. You didn't really get a chance to check out the topography and region.
Well, the irony is I'm in the Midwest, but I did go to Los Angeles the year after I got the book done, and then I was going to go see Bronson Canyon and things, and I don't know, seeing a bunch of things in LA, and somehow of all things, that was the one I didn't see, which makes all kinds of sense.
And it was freaky because I pointed out to Greg, I'm a Stephen King fan too, so I pulled out the Stephen King quote where he related an anecdote about in his book Dance Macabre, and then Greg tells me that your book actually starts out with that. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet myself. But so yeah, you start out with that. So it's really freaky how we both ran down the same avenues here. But and of course the Golden Turkey Awards. Lots of us are here because of that. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
You've got more, right?
Go ahead and tell the Stephen King anecdote, since people may not.
Can't let it go.
Yeah. Do you want to tell it or?
No, go ahead.
You're the one who read it up. You probably know the one.
I did reference it, and I think I got it here. There's a great little quote from King.
It was just relating that he smoked a lot of reefer the night he saw it. But Dance Macabre, you understand, Stephen King goes on about all of the greatest cult ones that we've ever gone with, and at the same time, the lousiest B movies of the 1950s, Attack of the Killer whatevers, and the cheapest stuff. And he lavishes praise on all of that equally, because he has it's either nostalgia or just love for it. So anyway,
there's a great quote from King here. This is what he said about watching Robot Monster under the influence. That night, I almost laughed myself into a hernia. Tears were rolling down my cheeks, and I was literally on the floor for most of the movie. Luckily, the movie only runs 63 minutes. Another 20 minutes of watching Roman tune his War Plus shortwave bubble machine in one of the more familiar Hollywood caves, and I think I would have laughed myself to death.
Yeah.
So
that's the one.
Something that I think is interesting, and I think you go into a little in the book, is you came to Robot Monster from the Medveds, and Pete mentioned that he and I actually was late to that party. I didn't read the Medveds until within the last 10 years. But there was sort of in the late 70s, there arose kind of this cult of bad movies, or culture of bad movies. And I think your opinion was that it kind of peaked in the mid 90s and has been in decline.
Yeah, I mean, not that it's gone away. I mean, clearly we're here talking about this stuff, but I think in terms of getting into the mass consciousness, overall pop culture, it seems like it really hit its peak around then. Mystery Science Theater was going strong. I remember seeing some, like on cable TV, maybe TNT, one of those channels, they're having like a festival of like Hercules movies, and like they were encouraging the viewers to mute the TV and make snarky comments about the movie they were watching. So I mean, it really was, that whole retro bad movie thing for a while there was huge. And it just seemed at some point leveled off. I remember when I met Harry, when we talked, he said to me, he goes, well, the whole bad movie thing, it's kind of bottomed out. I mean, in terms of like, books becoming selling a lot, which, I didn't expect it to have be a bestseller or anything. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it did kind of level off in the 90s at some point. Mystery Science Theater, of course, went off the air in 99 or 2000, something like that.
I think part of it may have been, since we're all older guys, when we were growing up, it was rare. You couldn't just go to Tubi and watch Robot Monster. It was rare. It was an occasion. You had to look for it. You had to go out and search for a VHS or something.
You did. You absolutely did. I mean, I remember, I think it was probably close to a decade between reading about this thing and just seeing these unbelievable photos of the gorilla with a helmet and Claudia Barrett smacking him with a rock. I mean, and reading all this dialogue, it's probably about a decade until I actually saw the thing, which I think, well, I was a college student without a lot of money, and I still spent the money once I found out I could order this VHS somewhere, and did so.
So how many times do you think you've seen Robot Monster?
Fewer than you might think based on writing this book. Probably 5 or 6. I know that at some point, getting closer to done with the book, I remember at some point I put it in and was watching it, and it was just like, what's this? Oh, this is the thing you're writing the book about. Yeah, well, it is. Yeah, okay, but it's been kind of in pieces in my mind, angles of it, and now I'm just seeing it together again. Okay, that's weird. Yeah.
Well,
So go ahead, Pete.
oh yeah, just we keep giving him grief about the gorilla costume and the diving helmet and the radio set with the bubble machine, and it's actually credited as the magical bubble machine in the credits, isn't it?
I think it's Automatic Billion Bubble Machine by N.A. Fisher Chemical Products.
Oh wow, boy, they got some hot advertising off of that. Yeah. But I kind of look back on being a sci-fi fan in general. I'm kind of looking back on 60s Star Trek or TV shows like Batman Lost in Space, incidentally also filmed in the same cave. That cave doubled as the Bat Cave in some context, at least the entrance. But anyway, so I look back on those special effects and I think, people were a lot more forgiving back then. Like, I remember a Star Trek episode passing off like a little furry dog with a horn strapped on its head as an alien. Remember that? Yep. Mr. Spock getting attacked by a little flying plastic thing on a string, So they would do stuff like that. Lost in Space especially can't be. Bottom line, were these guys, when they were making this, was everybody saying, yeah, this will sell, or this is silly, why are we doing this? Or
I think they knew what it was going to play like, but there's a quote from Tucker where he said something like, basically renting robot costumes was not possible, and I believe that was true because from what I've seen, I talked to Tom Weaver, who I'm sure you're familiar with. He's fantastic, and I think what Tom told me was like, as far as robot costumes, there weren't many that anybody could utilize beyond. I think there was one from Republic. So you were kind of, by 53, I think you're kind of on your own with the robot costume.
Did this guy not have children?
What's that?
Did he not have children?
Did Tucker?
Yeah.
Yeah. I met his son.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a parent of 4 myself, and you said you're a dad too, we know how to hustle together a Halloween costume, at least, right?
Yes.
I'm thinking,
Cardboard
robot,
boxes
come on.
and...
Yeah.
That's kind of what he That's kind of what he did, because he knew George Barrow's a gorilla suit actor, and then and that was like, I'll just put a helmet on and it'll work. Well,
a hairy robot, that's original.
Yeah, it works in terms of just getting the movie done, because the world of low budget movies, he knew he just had to get it done somehow. So it was better than nothing. But in truth, I think everybody who's into that movie, it does give it this kind of surrealistic power, because it just makes so little sense. It's machine head on this organic thing, and it's not human, it's a gorilla, and it's so nightmarish and bizarre. And I seem to remember even like the script was a little more clear about that, the whole dreamlike aspect, like the kid was dreaming it. So I think they knew it was going to be a little goofy, but they had to get it done.
It's a 4-day shooting time, so they probably said, well, whatever, let's throw it to the wall and see what sticks, right?
Right. I don't think George Barrow's worried too much. He was going to just get another gorilla job,
That's
right.
I wanted to get your see if you had any additional knowledge on George Barrows, because it's sort of fascinating that this guy, if you look at his IMDb page, he specializes in playing gorillas, or he specialized in that time, which seems insane to us now, that you could almost make a career out of playing gorillas. What can you tell us about George?
Oh, George Barrows is fascinating. I wish he was alive and I could have talked to him. He was just a fascinating guy. He was, I believe, a stunt man originally, just kind of did bit parts, stunt parts, got mixed in the movie business somehow. I think originally from New York, then ended up in Los Angeles. Well, I don't remember exactly what got him on the gorilla suit path, but I know that once he was into it, he was just meticulous. I'm not sure how far they all went with what they did, but George, I mean, he would go to the zoo, study the actual apes to get the proportions right. He would use like little arm extensions in his costume, so it didn't look like a guy just wearing a costume. Oh, he was very meticulous about the hair. I think it was yak hair you had to import from Eastern Europe, and then when the Cold War left, it was harder to get it. I think is what he said. I mean, it was just. I mean, he really was meticulous. And then I remember stories, in interviews and things about him where like one point he loaned the suit out to somebody else and really regretted it because it came back in poor condition. I mean, he really kept it in good shape and really was into it. And he mentored Bob Burns in a lot of ways too, because Bob got into some of the gorilla suit acting, and George was a mentor to him.
It's just still really strange to say gorilla suit acting, that there were enough jobs wearing gorilla.
Well, and then he shows up in other random things. I think he still just did bits, and but it's funny that there were multiple gorilla suit guys, because there was Janos Prohaska and Ray Crash Corrigan did gorilla stuff part of the time, and I think there's one or two more. And then one of them also had like the white gorilla costume. It showed up on that might have been a monster on Star Trek at one point. There was like this albino gorilla that one of them had. That was not
yeah, the albino gorilla, yeah. I think that was the Horta.
Yeah, it was one of those Star Treks, again, probably with a horn stuck on the head, to make it look alien. But yeah, but no, I know what you mean. It does seem bizarre. People specialize.
One more thing, you've also written novels. You've written like a trilogy of novels called Maze Noir, as in Korine.
Yeah, I kind of just been slowly stealth releasing those. Actually, I've written two more. I've written a lot of short stories, and they just kind of slowly trickle them out. My understanding with fiction is you need to kind of build up a lot of stuff and get about maybe 20 big works out there, novels or story collections or whatever. And then I haven't really gone to a lot of trouble to bring attention to it so far. But yeah, what you're witnessing is a overall writing career I'm slowly trying to.
Exactly. Aren't we all, right? Yeah, but no, I happen to be from the Midwest too. I'm in Iowa right now, so really, and I appreciate that, because I've been saying that the Midwest is good for a kind of gothic or noir kind of element to it.
It is more than people realize. I have a friend who's really into photography, and one of his hobbies, he goes on a lot of just trips around. Actually, I'm Iowa too. He likes to just go around the state and find sometimes more conventional things, but he'll find just abandoned buildings and weird old, school buildings, churches, whatever, and just, photograph these. And some of them are just amazingly atmospheric. I mean, and especially with the, it's not mountains, but, it's rolling hills and the cornfields. And I think cornfields.
It is, yeah, you got hills. Yeah.
Cornfields in fall are just very striking, I think. Kind of getting off topic. But,
All right, Greg. I'm sorry. I've been derailing this conversation everywhere, and you're trying to stay on the mission.
Trying to stay on robot monster. No. So anybody who hasn't seen Robot Monster, you should go out and see it. But I'm going to do a spoiler, because I think Anders already talked about it. Is that it ends up it's all a dream. It's very very much modeled on Wizard of Oz there.
It does have that element. There is a little ambiguity. Do we want to spoil this too? Well, there is that little bit of "is it over yet" thing, which is pretty common to a lot of movies of this type. But the script was much more straightforward on that point. The movie, and that's one of the probably my least favorite chapter to write, was when I did a big analysis of the script versus the movie, but it was worthwhile because there were some serious differences. Like I believe, like the guidance Roman is not in the script. In the script, it's really just the Earth Roman, and the Earth Roman doesn't have his crazy soliloquies.
And that was the only two aliens purportedly shown in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them does not appear. The other Roman does not appear. And then the goofy dinosaur footage, Earth splitting apart stuff, that is not scripted either. They did a lot of stuff in post-production. I'm guessing they just decided it wasn't, jazzy enough or whatever, and decided to make it more exciting.
I was actually going to ask you about that footage, the dinosaur footage, which has some obvious lizards with things, little fake fins stuck on their back, actually fighting each other. I think that footage has been used in other movies. What do you know about that?
Yeah, the footage, as I understand it, okay, it was from the production, I think, of 1 Million BC. Is that what that's called? It was from the 40s with Victor Mature. That movie, it's not, I think it's not footage directly used in the movie, but a lot of stuff filmed for that 1 Million BC, it was used in other productions, and that's 1 Million BC footage. Like, I don't know how much they actually shot, but it shows the footage from that movie was licensed out to just about everybody for a while. It seems like, I think it was a Hal Roach production.
It's certainly, that touch is very bizarre within an already bizarre movie, but it kind of frames both the beginning and the end of it. I'm wondering, do you see any sort of deep meaning or even any kind of meaning in Robot Monster other than just, attempt to make an entertaining sort of kids movie, sort of?
Deep meaning. Well, got to keep your emotions in check. If there's one thing that romance example shows us is, don't lose your cool, because all he does is lose his cool. He can't get his job done correctly. He doesn't complete the mission, doesn't get Alice to like him either. I mean, it's, I don't know. He doesn't really succeed.
Next time they should send two. Two aliens.
That's right.
If one alien wiped out the entire population except just down to a handful of people, it's like, oh, we should have sent two guys. I would have.
Right. He had such an easy time wiping out the entire planet except this stubborn group of people who are hanging out in this looks like a basement where the house has been torn down and
on the fields.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Sort of the reason I asked about the meaning of it is that whenever I see a movie from this era with aliens in it and an invasion, you've got the Cold War backdrop, right? That's what everybody's thinking of at the time. And I'm wondering, how that might play into Robot Monster and how it might inform the attitudes of the monster here.
Well, there is always the alien invader as sort of the Soviet threat angle. So I mean, there's definitely that. One thing that always fascinates me is how science technology had changed so much in such a short period of time. Because thinking about it, early 20th century, there would have been people around who remembered the time before the radio, before TV, before maybe even internal combustion engines. Things had really changed, and then there's atomic bombs, and so. I think what a lot of these movies, Robot Monster shows, is they always want to use technology in this kind of over the top. If they can't show something really amazing, they can call it a calcinator death ray. And there's always these amazing name for things. I don't know what calcinator is, but it's a stand-in for atomic or something, I guess. I always think these movies really are affected by that because the world had changed so much because of technology. Probably in good ways and obviously in some scary ways.
Yeah, Stephen King addresses that connection between atomic fears of the 1950s and Cold War, and then playing out into the horror movies. He points out, I believe the way he puts it is he had to work with what's in the audience's head already. So like in a modern day, you take modern day translations for fears. So of course, you see a lot more high tech thrillers come out in the last 20. The best bad monster movie. The best bad monster movie is the total title, right? Okay, all right.
That's absolutely makes sense what King said though, because it's like it does the work of the writer of the creator. You know, what's in the audience's head? What do they fear? Well, you know, it's especially true in terms of, you know, writing, as opposed to when you see everything in the movie, the reader is going to fill it in. So what's in the reader's mind? You know, it's a very truthful thing he's saying there, I think.
Yeah. We kind of take the same thing. Me and Giles Edwards, the other guy that works with 366 Weird, and he's also a colleague of mine that works on a lot of projects. We have a podcast. We're doing a horror drama audio stuff. We're also launching a new another one where it's just audio fiction, like 20-minute little short pieces, right? Like flash fiction. But yeah, we do a lot of that. So we're trying to work more with what's in modern people's heads. And I've noticed that the new thing is liminal space horror. The back rooms is a popular internet meme. No, the back rooms. Okay. Dead malls, dead mall culture, and the death of major consumerism playing.
Oh, sure.
Okay, all right.
I could say that.
Anyway, it's this creepy kind of internet popular horror where you're just wandering an empty indoor commercial space forever. It goes on forever. Yeah. And it's like you no clip through the background in a video game. So you see how modern day fears, people put things in modern day terms of technology they wouldn't have been able to articulate back in the 50s.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, that would be absolutely horrifying, because what do people do all the time? Go shopping, look at their phones, watch TV, you know, just I think dead silence itself is potentially
just nothing but you and your crumbling sanity, right? And after a few days lack of sleep, the shadowy thing chasing you around corners. Yeah, no, I could see it. Just, you know, when you say the best bad monster movie, I'm a big fan of these. How about a top 5? Frankenstein Island, 1981.
Oh, that's a good one. Jerry Warren.
Familiar with it. I love that. I especially love the darn monster that everybody was expecting doesn't even show up until the last 5 minutes. And
Jerry Warren, and then it's got John Carradine's disembodied head showing up as a hologram, droning on about the power.
Okay. How about From Hell It Came, 1957? That's
impressive. That's a unique creature. That's with the Tabanga and
ridiculous to grow, man. I don't know. The big, he reminds me of the McDonald's Playland apple pie tree. That McDonald's Playland, you know, just the big.
It's kind of HR puff and stuff a little bit. It's a unique.
Yeah. And
probably, were they reading Tolkien? I mean, because, you know, Tolkien had those tree guys, Ents, whatever they were. So it's.
I know they're everywhere. For some reason, talking trees are a big thing. They were in Wizard of Oz too. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, that's a couple of candidates.
You ran out of good bad monster movies.
Of course.
Speaking of other movies, are there? Everybody knows. I should say everybody, but you know, everybody we're addressing knows Robot Monster. Are there any other Phil Tucker movies that are worth checking out?
Cape Canaveral Monsters is definitely worth checking out, and I don't know if it's currently streaming anywhere. It used to be. I'm trying to remember the history of it now, because I think it used to be on Netflix and it was Amazon. I'm not sure if it's anywhere, but it might, you know, still show up other places. That one, it's not as goofy and bizarre and over the top, but it's still a pretty bizarre monster movie with dialogue that's just sometimes unbelievable. And I actually very much like it also in a more positive sense, because it shows a progression of Tucker, because it's a much more smooth movie. It's just better shot, better edited, you know, it just hangs together better. It's you know, everything's a step in the right direction. Everything's done better.
And speaking of Tucker, I believe you had, I don't know if you're announcing this but do you have access to a unpublished script of his?
Yeah, so just a little bit about that. A few years ago, I was contacted by someone who is, let's see, the son of someone who was in the cast of a movie Tucker made that's since lost. It's called Space Jockey, and has the script, and I was privileged to be able to see the script, and I've been working on getting a book of that going. Wanted to have that done already. Life kind of intervened and made everything challenging, but so that hasn't gone very quickly. But Yeah, it's Tucker's Lost movie, Space Jock. As far as I know, the movie is lost, and I had kind of assumed that there was like a connection to the Robert Heinlein story, but there isn't. I mean, it's different characters and different things going on, and it's an original Tucker story, and I had some research done. It appears to not have been copyrighted, so working on getting a script book of that going. Hopefully, I'm trying to get the majority work of that done within the rest of this year. So we'll see what happens there. I'll definitely let you know once I have more to say about that.
How is the script? Is it bizarre or more competent, or?
It's more straightforward than Robot Monster, but every now and then reading it, there's a line of dialogue where I'm like, why did he say that? And it's kind of like, okay, there's just some of those goofy moments. There is not a gorilla with a helmet, and unfortunately, there's nothing like that. But
Great, Pete. Do you have any questions that in our last minute, a couple minutes or so, that you want to?
It's been great meeting you, and especially given the whole body of your work, it's great reading somebody that's really into a lot of the same grooves I am. So.
Well, likewise, it's been fun. I like talking about old Star Trek, which I grew up watching the reruns. I'm a Gen Xer, but we had a UHF station growing up, so it was just so I'd see like Wrath of Khan. So you want to see all the episodes, so
I know we didn't even get a chance to go over the music bookshelf back here. Which, if you wrote a music book, I'd probably have you on here too. If you did the same research job into a band like, say Suburban Lawns. That's a good one.
I've got to check them out. I don't think I know Suburban Lawns. I've been into a lot of Sad Lovers and Giants lately.
We do have a traditional last question that we ask people.
Sure.
Is what is your hometown, and can you recommend a restaurant there?
Well, my hometown, I was born in Brookings, South Dakota. I grew up in Iowa. I'm basically an Iowan, but Brookings, South Dakota, and I wish I could recommend a restaurant. I cannot think of them because I haven't been back enough times. I could tell you restaurants, maybe in some other South Dakota towns, but
what about the town you live in now? Unless you don't want people to know where you live.
It's a big secret. We have, let's see, Colorado Grill in Boone, Iowa. It's a good place to eat.
All right.
Okay. Well, that's great. We probably could have, since you wrote a 700-page book, we probably could have talked about Robot Monster all day, but I think we got some good stuff, got some tidbits, things I didn't know about Robot Monster. And so any place you have a website you want to tell people where they
it's just www.runstedwrites.com. So if one can spell my last name, it's just the word rights after that.com. I haven't been updating as much as I should, though, and I hope in the near future with the script book project getting closer to done, I can update a little more, maybe do some more Hobbit rock on there.
Well, we'll link that for you.
Or music in general. I'm a huge music geek. I especially like tracing the lineage of how different bands were related and stuff, who shifted around, who influenced who really wrote.
All right. Well, we have to check out. Thank you, Anders Runestad, for being on with us on 366 Weird Movies, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Stay weird.